everybody, welcome to the video. It's Wednesday, July 7th, and we have a split slate today over on DraftKings. A 5-game early slate starting around noon time Eastern today, then the late main slate tonight, which includes 9 games, and starting around normal time around 7 p.m. Eastern. And I'm more of a fan of the late main slate tonight, just think it's the overall better slate. But I do have a couple of early slate pitching options here in case you are playing early, but for the most part, we're going to be focusing on the late main slate tonight, which I'm sure most of you, that's what you're playing over than the early slate today anyway. But if you find this video helpful in any way possible, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And if you don't follow me over on social media, you know where to find me using the handles in the bottom right corner of your screen. And if you want to help support the channel over on Patreon, link is down below in the description for that. But you get access to a lot of extra content, the entire data sheet with all the statistics you'd ever want. Not just a little player pool that I'm showing you guys on YouTube. I have pretty much every single player on there. And projections, optimizer, ownership projections, rankings, cheat sheets, data sheets, and the Discord community. All that fun stuff link is down below in the description. I did want to give someone a shout out in the Discord chat as he pulled off the impossible because he had Jacob deGrom last night and he still took home a second place finish in the big tournament, good for $20,000, even with Jacob deGrom in his lineup. So I wanted to give a shout out to Shady. And this is the second $20,000 win like the past week. So he's been on an absolute heater, especially in other sports. So I just wanted to give him a shout out because I thought this was crazy pulling in this kind of a score without having your most expensive player, Jacob deGrom, pitching last night, which I'm sure a lot of you guys got screwed with the weather as well, because it was kind of like, what the heck do we do? Because it sounded like they were going to play. Even the owner said they were going to play. We didn't know really what to do, but he still pulled it off, so shout out to Shady Man. That was absolutely awesome to see. Last but not least, this video is brought to you by Prize Picks. I'm sure most of you know what it is by now, the way they're growing around the industry, but if you don't know who they are, it's the simplest fantasy game on the market. You don't have to compete against sharks, 150 max, salary cap, those kind of things. It's just you versus the projections. Very fun to play and complement with either DraftKings or FanDuel. If you just want to strictly play over there, I understand that as well. But right now, if you head over there and use the link down in the description below, you can get a free money bonus, instant match up to $100 using code CPEN over there. And if you do want to check it out, all you gotta do is go to prizepicks.com or download their mobile-friendly app, or just hit the link down in the description below. And it's pretty much just you versus the projections here. You can pick up to 2 to 5 players to win up to 10x your money. So just for example, just to show you guys how this works. For example, if you like Drew Smyly tonight, think he's going to get over 4.5 strikeouts, you could pick the over here, Kyle Gibson at 6 strikeouts. So you think that line should be a little bit higher, you take Kyle Gibson over that, or you could check out the fantasy score here and bet on how many fantasy points they're going to score. And this does use FanDuel scoring. So let's say we're just a big fan of Drew Smyly tonight. We're going to take the over here. And if you did 20 bucks, you can win up to 45. If you're using the flex play, the power play could get that up to $100, and you could pick up to 5 players with 20 bucks, could get you all the way up to $200 if you happen to do the power play. So it's really fun. Check it out. And again, as of right now, they are doing an instant deposit match up to $100 if you use code CPEN once you sign up. So that means if you deposit $100, you get $100 free instantly. So it's free money. Why not check it out? Have some fun with it. It looks really fun, and I'm definitely looking forward to it. So I think that'll be it for the plug. So without further ado, let's dive into today's video. And as per usual, we'll start with the pitchers, then move on to the bats. And we'll start up top with Zack Wheeler here, $10,300. And I gotta say, there is a lack of good pitching options on that late slate. So I really think you need to find a way to fit Zack Wheeler in, assuming the weather cooperates. Because I was looking, and it says right now there's like a 30-40% chance of rain. And I'd hate to have another Jacob deGrom fiasco like last night. So just make sure you check out the weather. But I'm not trying to predict the weather at 9 a.m. like hours and hours before the slate starts, because I have no idea what the weather's going to do. Just follow all your favorite weather people on Twitter to help you out there. But anyway, Zack Wheeler, $10,300, a little bit expensive here, but it's a good spot versus the Cubs. They do struggle a little bit versus right-handed pitching when it comes to strikeouts. They do have a little bit of pop in their bat, I will say that, around a 180 ISO this season, but they're still striking out over 26% of the time versus right-handed pitching. And the past couple of days, the wind has been blowing out in Wrigley, which has been a big boost for the bats. As you can see, if you look at the box scores from those games, the Phillies have scored double-digit runs in each of the past 2 games, and the Cubs even had 10 runs last night. But the wind looks like it's going to be blowing in around 10 to 12 miles per hour, which is not a lot. But if you're brand new to MLB DFS and you don't know how Wrigley Field works, it's pretty reliant on the wind. If the wind's blowing out, it's going to be a big boost for the bats. But when it's blowing in, it's definitely a big boost for pitching. So home runs that are, fringe home runs could turn into flyouts, and if the wind's blowing out, fringe flyouts can turn into home runs. So definitely liking the spot here for Zack Wheeler, and he's been really good this season. Now, I will say the last time I rostered him, I'm pretty sure he had his worst start of the year, but overall he's been very good. 205 ERA, XFIP and Sierra both below 3, 31% K rate. And one of my favorite things about Zack Wheeler is that he just pretty much gives up 0 hard contact whatsoever. Less than a 100 ISO this season, only a 22.8% hard contact rate. and about half a homer per 9. So if you're playing that late slate tonight, assuming weather cooperates, because it looks like there's a bit of a chance of rain, I mean, I'd have a hard time not playing Zach Wheeler. So absolutely love him, especially if you are playing that late slate. Then dropping down to Kyle Gibson, 9,100 bucks. Gets a pretty soft matchup here versus Detroit. And Kyle Gibson has been an odd pitcher this season because if you look at the surface numbers, they look fantastic. He has less than a 2 ERA, and that's every casual fan's favorite stat is looking at their ERA. So if you look at Kyle Gibson, I mean, it's even better than Zach Wheeler. It looks really good. Now the underlying numbers suggest some regression here, considering his xFIP and SIERA are about 2 runs higher, only a 21% K rate, walk rate close to 8%, only 7.5 Ks per 9. He does get a lot of ground balls, and he does limit the power, considering his ISO is below 100 this season, similar to Zach Wheeler, and only 0.7 homers per 9. So it's not like he's getting absolutely lucky, but I don't know. I just hate rostering Kyle Gibson above $9,000 because of the xFIP and SIERA numbers, but I don't think that's going to catch up to him versus Detroit. I think once we get a tougher matchup, it could, but I think versus Detroit, he should be able to keep skating by. Only 3.7 implied team total against him. We know the Tigers are just one of the worst offenses in baseball, so I think you can definitely target Kyle Gibson here. So if you want to roster him as your SP1 on the early slate, I'd have no issue with that whatsoever. And then drop down to Chris Paddock, 8,700 bucks. So it looks like our only good SP2 options on the late main slate tonight is either going to be Chris Paddock or Patrick Corbin, and I don't really want to play Patrick Corbin versus San Diego Padres, so I'll go on the flip side of this game and use Chris Paddock here at 8,700 bucks. Only a 3.5 implied team total against him. Pretty heavy favorite. No Kyle Schwarber in the lineup is definitely going to be a boost for him because Chris Paddock is a guy that will give some power versus left-handed bats, and there was no one hotter in baseball than Kyle Schwarber over that stretch of 15 or 20 games. And I know Chris Paddock's not the most exciting pitcher out there. His ERA's at around 4.5 this season, but the xFIP and SIERA about a run lower, 25% carry, doesn't really walk too many guys. Will give us some power. That's the one problem there. So I don't know, maybe a guy like Trey Turner once that could give him some issues here. But I like the low implied team total. I like it that it's a pitcher-friendly park. And look at the other SP2 options in the slate, and you'll see the reason why I like Chris Paddock here. So I definitely think he's a good way to go in SP2 on that main slate tonight. Then a couple of SP2 options here if you're playing early. We have Sonny Gray, 8,300 bucks. So I was a little bit concerned about the pitch count last time he pitched. I said you could play him, but just be aware of that pitch count. But I ended up having a pretty good game, went 86 pitches deep. So that's pretty good for coming right off the IL. So I'm assuming we should be pretty much full go here for Sonny Gray. I would not be surprised if we can see 90 plus pitches. And if we can get 90 plus pitches out of Sonny Gray at 8,300 bucks versus the Kansas City Royals, he's definitely going to go down as a really good value play at that price point. Because Sonny Gray is a pitcher that, he could be around $9,000 to $10,000, and I wouldn't bat an eye about it because the guy's got a good strikeout rate. And he's a pretty darn good pitcher. He just typically pitches in a bad pitcher's park. But pitching in Kansas City, I'd say it's a little bit of a boost going from Great American Small Park, one of the most hitter-friendly parks in baseball. Kansas City's not a pitcher's paradise or anything, but it's definitely a boost getting out of Cincinnati. And his numbers in the season, while it's a smaller sample size because he has been injured, but around 31% K rate, can walk some guys, about 12 Ks per 9. It's a fly ball rate under 30%, 308 xFIP, 3.43 SIERA. I like Sonny Gray, 8,300 bucks quite a bit in the pitch count from his last start. Was definitely encouraging for me. And then Drew Smyly, 7,400 bucks. The guy was kind of featuring on Prize Picks a little bit. He gets a good matchup versus Pittsburgh, but Drew Smyly is a guy that I have a hard time trusting. I know he was really good in his last start versus Miami, and he has had spurts where he's been pretty good this season, but the guy's a very hit or miss pitcher for the most part. Like, his numbers on the season aren't going to encourage you too much. Only a 20% K rate, 4.6 SIERA, 4.8 xFIP, which are all worse than his ERA at 4.4, which isn't even that great. But I like the matchup versus Pittsburgh. They're a soft team for the most part, but they can be a bit stingy sometimes, so it is kind of annoying to stack against them here and there, but very limited power versus left-handed pitching. Only a 129 team ISO, 287 WOBA, 81 WRC+. I just don't like that they only strike out 22% of the time, and Drew Smyly's not a big strikeout guy, but if you're looking for an SP2 on the early slate that shouldn't get blown up, I think I'll probably give up a run or two. I'm not sure the strikeouts are going to be anything too crazy, maybe like 4 to 5 strikeouts, maybe 6 if we get lucky, but for 7,400 bucks, I'm not going to get too picky here, and the pitching is very limited today on both slates, so we're going to kind of have to take what we get for the most part. But I think that'll be it for the pitching, so we'll move right over to the bats. And we'll start up top with the catcher position. We have JT Realmuto here, 3,400 bucks. He had a good game last night, as pretty much all the Phillies did. Now, the wind's not going to be blowing out, and I don't love the Phillies here. I'm going to assume their team total is going to be either low 4s or upper 3s, or maybe even mid 3s. Not sure exactly how much Vegas is like in the wind blowing in here, but for JT Realmuto, he's one of the best hitting catchers in baseball. I just feel like he's a bit too cheap here, 3,400 bucks. It's not my most favorite spot in the world, but if you're just looking for a guy that's underpriced, Realmuto should usually be around above $4,000. So the fact that you're getting him at 3,400 bucks just seems like a steal. So if you're going to roster him, I have no issue with that. And if you want a couple of cheaper catchers, we have Dalton Varsho, $2,600, just a cheap lefty on righty matchup here versus Antonio Sensatella. I think the Diamondbacks are actually a pretty decent stack tonight, hitting at home in Arizona. Team total close to 5, since Sensatella's not a very good pitcher. Like the lefties here versus him. You can use the righties as well, but I think Varsho at that price point is definitely a good value play. Then Denny Jansen, $2,400. The Blue Jays get the honor of being able to play Matt Harvey and Camden Yards, so they're obviously going to be the top stack on the entire night. Can't imagine a team total that's not out yet, is going to surpass the Blue Jays here, sitting around 6. I would not be surprised if that gets north of 6 as the day progresses, sitting at 5.99. So, loving all the Blue Jays. Yes, Denny Jansen sucks as a hitting catcher, but so does Matt Harvey. The Orioles bullpen's not that great. It's a very hitter-friendly park. You get the guaranteed nothing at bats on the road. Yeah, sign me up for all the Blue Jays tonight. I can't stress that enough. Like pretty much every single guy in this lineup, even if I don't have him on this sheet. Dropping out of first base, we have Vlad, $5,900. He went deep last night, which he does pretty much almost every single night. The guy's batting around 350 this season. The ISO is above 350. I mean, what do you want me to tell you? Vlad is one of the best offensive players in baseball. If you have the money for him, he's pretty much the top bat in the slate versus the worst pitcher on the slate in Matt Harvey. Then Lamont Wade, $3,400. Liking the Giants stack tonight. They have a team total close to 5. I know San Francisco is not the most hitter-friendly park in baseball, but they get a good matchup here versus the Cardinals. And if they can get the starter out early on, the Cardinals have one of the worst bullpen team xFIPs in the entire league. I know I mention this almost every single time that they're on the slate, but it's true, and it's something you guys should know. So their bullpen sitting at 4.9 this season, which I believe is a league worst. I know the Rockies are up there, but I'm pretty sure the Cardinals have the worst team xFIP bullpen in the league. So if they can get the starter out early on, it's only going to be a boost for the Giants. And Wade leading off, he's been pretty solid this season, batting around 275 with over a 200 ISO. So $3,400. You can also play him in the outfield. I think he's fine in Giant stack, or just as a one-off in cash games. Then Christian Walker, $3,100. I said I prefer the lefties versus Sensatella, but I mean, at this price point, you can pretty much play all the Diamondbacks for the most part. I'm not really sure exactly how long Sensatella will last in this game. And like I said, the Rockies bullpen is not that great. Cheap Diamondback stack tonight because it's not that hard to fit them in whatsoever. Like, they are just overall a very cheap offense. And as they should be. They're not the greatest offense out there, but when they're in good spots, we can definitely target them. And then dropping out of second base, we have Max Muncy, $5,800, go up against David Hess, who we haven't really seen in a while. I remember back when he was on the Orioles, I used to pick on him quite a bit because he had some pretty atrocious numbers. I want to say his ERA and xFIP were close to 7 for a couple of seasons. He's been in AAA this year, and his numbers actually haven't been that bad at all. So I'm not really sure exactly what we're gonna get because it's a pitcher-friendly park in Miami. There's no team total out yet for the Dodgers. I think there's still a decent stack tonight because I don't think David Hess is gonna mow these guys down. But I'm not sure what their team total is going to be. I'm having a hard time trying to predict that. It might be around 5 today, but either way, I definitely think we can roster the Dodgers here versus David Hess. Probably won't go super deep into this game, especially if the Dodgers can get to him early on. But Max Muncy's got plenty of power versus righty, so I don't mind that. Marcus Semien, $5,500. If you had to pick between Semien and Muncy, if I'm playing cash games, I want to play Semien just because I want all the Blue Jays in my lineup today versus Matt Harvey. And his numbers have been very solid this season, but you can't go wrong with either. But if you are playing cash games, or you're stacking the Blue Jays, just try to get to Marcus Semien. He's also a little bit cheaper. Then Eduardo Escobar, you could also play him at third base, $4,400. And again, I like this entire Diamondback stack tonight versus Sensatella. Plus, he's a switch hitter, so he's going to get the lefty on righty matchup. And with that team total close to 5 and their price tags, I mean, they definitely grade as one of the best value stacks on the entire slate. And Escobar has had some decent power this season, even though his numbers aren't overall that great. Then going to third base, we have Manny Machado, $5,300. Go up against Patrick Corbin, who's a really annoying pitcher because I've rostered him a couple times this season. I'm pretty sure he's got absolutely shelled both of those times. And there's other times where he looks like a decent pitcher. We know in the past, Patrick Corbin was a very good pitcher, but I don't think he's going to have that great of a time here versus the Padres. Guys like Machado, Tatis, and Tommy Pham do grade out pretty well for me versus Patrick Corbin. We know Manny Machado's got plenty of power versus lefties over the course of his career. So if you got the money for him, if you are stacking the Padres, their team total seems a bit low, and the Washington bullpen isn't that great. So I wouldn't even mind just stacking the Padres at lower ownership here, just because I don't think a lot of people are going to go to them, considering that low team total of only 4.5 here. Gavin Biggio, $3,900, just a lefty on righty matchup here versus Matt Harvey. Don't really think that needs explained too much. And if you need an absolute free play, you could also play him at second base, but it's Domingo Leyba here. $2,000, I believe that's how you pronounce his name, but it's a dirt cheap righty on lefty matchup here versus Rio, and it's a hitter-friendly park. It's just if you're looking for value here. And the Orioles have actually played pretty well versus left-handed pitching this season. They did pretty well last night versus lefty. I would not be surprised. I don't think they're going to do exactly what they did last night. I think they scored 7 runs, but I definitely think a couple of guys could give Ryu some trouble. Maybe not exactly Leyba, but if he just gets on base and gets a run, you'll be pretty happy at $2,000. Dropping on a shortstop, we have Tatis, $5,900. I don't really think I have to explain why Tatis is a good play here. He's facing a lefty. That guy has all the power in the world. He can do pretty much anything. He's good in the base pass. He can get singles, doubles, triples, home runs, you name it, he can do it. Just one of the most exciting players in baseball. So if you got the money for Tatis, it's always a good option to try to get him in. Bo Bichette, $5,500, just part of that Blue Jays stack that everyone's going to like tonight. And then Gavin Lux, $2,700. Cheap lefty already matchup here versus David Hess. I do think the Dodgers should be a decent stack tonight, but Gavin Lux is dirt cheap at $2,700. If you need a cheap shortstop, Gavin Lux is your guy. You could also look at Josh Rojas, who I have listed in the outfield here, but you could also play him at shortstop pretty cheap and should be leading off for the Diamondbacks. And then dropping down to the outfield, we have Mookie Betts, $5,200, just part of that Dodger stack that I think is kind of intriguing tonight. Very interested to see where their team total is going to be, because it's definitely not the greatest place to hit in Miami, but they're still a good offense, and David Hess is not that imposing of a pitcher. And then a couple of Blue Jays outfielders here in George Springer and Teoscar Hernandez. Both guys are lead options here versus Matt Harvey. Both have plenty of power in their bat. Tommy Pham, I already mentioned with Manny Machado and Tatis, but I do like the righties here versus Patrick Corbin. Cody Bellinger, you get the lefty and righty matchup here versus David Hess, and I think he's at a fair price point, batting cleanup for the Dodgers. Josh Rojas, who I just kind of highlighted a minute ago, but lefty and righty matchup should be leading up for the Diamondbacks. I do think they're a pretty decent stack tonight. I could see him being very popular. And then David Peralta, Rojas' teammate, $2,800, dirt cheap, had 17 fantasy points last night, and an even cheaper lefty and righty matchup here versus Sensatella. That being said, guys, I think that'll be it for the video. So I hope it was helpful, and if it was, make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. You can follow me over on social media using the handles in the bottom corner of your screen. And if you want to help support the channel over on Patreon, link is down below in the description for that. But you can get access to the projections, optimizer rankings, cheat sheets, data sheets, Discord community, all that fun stuff. Link is down below. And the link is also down below for Prize Picks if you want to check that out, which they are offering a free money bonus up to $100 instant deposit match. So if you deposit $50, you get $50 right back to you. Or if you deposit up to $100, you can get $100 for free. So use that to your advantage. Check it out. Use code CPEM when you do that. But I think that'll be pretty much it, guys. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you guys in the next video.